My name is Tami
Oh wait, one second.
Gould.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
And you got the books. I make films, I make documentaries, and I really focus on a range of different issues around social justice. When I talk about it, I'm talking about system changes, really creating a new playing field. And so I hope that my films really get to those points. So we're not just talking about the rights that I can get married as a lesbian, but that we really break all this kind of like, no, my rights cannot be realized until in the United States we deal with the question of white supremacy. We need change from the bottom, and it has to be pretty radical and really confront where we are with capitalism. Oh, sometimes I say to people, I sure wish I didn't have to self-identify and tell people that I was a lesbian. I wish none of us had to identify. I wish we could live in a world where our identity, whether it's the color of our skin, our nationality, our sexual orientation, our gender identity, if it was so fluid, none of that mattered. But at this moment, it still matters. And to me, within the queer movement, I can only talk in the United States. Our queer movement is very gender-based. It's still with a white male hierarchy. We have to recognize that a lot of the demands that we've made really have been to the advantages of, in many cases, white gay men, and also to white lesbians as well. We have to really kind of think about how can we have a multiracial leadership, a gender kind of explosive leadership within our LGBTI world. The other thing that's missing from the discussions around our liberation is how it relates to the question of class, working class, LGBTI. That's often out of the discussion. How does that factor in? How do we create safe space for somebody who, in fact, when they come out, there's a chance they might lose their home, a chance their families might throw them out, they won't have an economic cushion. We need a lot of discussion around that. We can't look at ourselves in a silo. If we do, then we silo ourselves within the queer movement. So then you'll have lesbians, and then you'll have bisexuals and trans and gay men and fighting within each other. We have to break down a system of silos. We have to see how each thing interconnects. And then within the queer movement, we have to see how we interconnect with the movement against racism and the movement against classism and against war and for ecological rights and indigenous rights. It's all an interconnection. So I think that's something that people can learn where my generation failed. We did not get that. We had the women's liberation. Women's liberation repudiated the lesbians because they would make the women's libers seem like they were male haters, and they wanted to assimilate with power. And the same thing, having an exclusively lesbian identity is still limiting. If within our own large movement create internal silos, we end up having internal struggles. I think one thing is we have to learn from our elders, and I'm your elder, so there's something you can learn from me. We have to be able to connect with the struggles of the past, and that there's great people who have really led the struggle for transgender rights. But I'm not sure a lot of the young students in college know that history. So there's a lot to learn from our history, whether it's from Harvey Milk or from some of the great leaders. So we really have to understand the struggles and who led these struggles and how they led it. We also can be critical of the elders and of people like myself, but there's always going to be criticism, and there's always places that we all can learn. I think that the big stuff is going to be for the young people fighting for the human rights, not civil rights, and the human rights have to then be expanded to other peoples. It's really important that you had the Pride Day today. I loved it, and I loved marching with you because it was celebratory. And it was really about saying we are here and we are queer and get used to it. We have to have ourselves present. We don't do that at Hunter College in New York City, where I'm a professor. We have not seen the need to put ourselves on the line right there in the university, in a celebration. I think it was really important. I thought the workshop last night on sex, talking about sex, I thought that was fabulous. And I think workshops like that should be happening all over the place. And I think it's really good for queer kind of visibility and to be able to talk about sex with a lot of pride and a lot of teaching. The honesty in the discussion and the fact that it was a safe space, I think that our experience, because we've needed safe space, can teach other people on campus the need for safe space. So I think what you're doing here is really remarkable, and it's exemplary for other schools to be able to see your queer